You're right, Al. Hi there, and welcome to episode 64. Oh, for fuck's sake. I mean, I'm halfway through the welcome.
But he's poorly. Look at him, bless him.
Yeah.
Hi there. This is it from now, isn't it? This is our podcast for now. I can't say the first sentence. I can't say hello to Brian. Anyway, hi there, and welcome to episode 64 of the ADHD Adults podcast. I'm James Brown, the man with the job of herding the almost certainly unemployable co-hosts Alex Connor and Mrs. ADHD. Hi, Alex.
I know you've reached Alex at the ADHD Adults. Your call is very important to us, but we're experiencing unexpectedly high levels of anxiety right now, so your wait time will be longer than usual.
My wait time for a good hello has been longer than usual, Alex, to be honest.
It took him half an hour to write that this morning. Go easy.
Jesus. And Mrs. ADHD, how are you?
I'm all right. I didn't sleep. My eyes are swollen. I was crying all night. You know, standard.
That's a happy start to the podcast.
Yeah.
So we know how Sam is now. How are you, Alex?
Excellent, thank you. Although, Sam, can you save that for the Christmas special?
What, crying all night?
It's just so very miserable.
It happens every night.
Yeah, no, indeed. Good. I'm really good. Excellent. Except I genuinely think I've got COVID. Yeah, but I always mean emotionally.
Oh.
Emotionally, absolutely fine. Yeah, pretty much. I am. I've been struggling a bit this week. It's not important.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, a little bit.
About?
Well, we could do it. We could record it on a podcast. What do you think?
All right then, yeah.
Can we? If we do record it on a podcast, can we do it in the appropriate part of the podcast? Do you think?
What? We literally have a bit on a Thursday. How's your week been? Oh man, the numbers are inexplicably going up still. I mean inexplicably, Sam.
Really?
Yeah. And one of them,
I see.
One of them sent us a letter, James.
Have they tiredly?
Yes, that's right. It's from Robert from Kidderminster. He says, I listened to your last episode on loneliness and social isolation, and I probably shouldn't write a joke letter about this difficult and sensitive topic. Thanks, Robert. Very meta.
Very sensitive of him, wasn't it? But then again, he's a sensitive soul.
Robert couldn't do it this week. No chance.
No.
Get cancelled. We have been sent a real letter though. I forgot. So Sam reminded me when I said I have. Sam has. It's from a Hayden, but we didn't ask, so it isn't.
I might.
And it says, let's say we have common name in it. It said, I just wanted to thank you for producing such an incredible podcast. I have a similar background to you both. I have a PhD from Redacted, and your stories have really helped me come to terms with my ADHD, although I am still waiting for my full assessment. Referring back to one of your earlier podcasts, I now work in an office job, and I fucking hate it.
Oh.
I definitely miss working in a lab. I did plan on writing more, but I've lost all interest and I'm late for a meeting. But thanks again. It's really good. But thanks again. Keep doing what you're doing. Being complete arsehole. It's amazing.
Now I remember why I chose that one.
It's a brilliant letter.
Can I ask a question? Because did you just pick that at random? Because this isn't an episode about employment and jobs. Because that actually is about employment and jobs. So the chances of you picking one at random and it happens to be relevant to the podcast is fucking infinitesimal. I've got that wrong, haven't I?
Yeah.
Carry on now.
In the description, I put funny ending, so I chose that one.
It's title your sex tape. James, we in Bavaria have a saying, I'll translate it for you, about Sam getting that right. And it's sometimes even blind chickens pick up corn.
That is definitely
say it in German.
The new name. That's the new name for this podcast.
Oh, okay.
There's no way I'm speaking another language in front of James. It would be like the end of
me.
me.
He doesn't know languages.
I know, I could just say anything, couldn't I?
Yeah.
Klingon. Right, internationally we're going up as well. James, we've gone up by a country, 137 countries. I know. And on the list, the country we've gone up by is unknown country. That's what it says.
You
when
made
usually
that
I say
up.
No,
it says unknown
he
country.
really didn't. Yeah.
So when we usually say we honestly have no idea which country, this time we haven't. So yeah, we
Yeah.
are of course bewildered and grateful to all of our listeners. So this week we'd like to say a big howdy doody to the unknown country listener.
Oh my God, that's pitiful as always. Anyway, moving on as usual. This signed photo of Right Said Fred, taken in 2012 of a podcast, is a tragedy in three. Does it matter if they're two people?
Well,
Are they
just
two
sounds
people?
like it's a signed photo of one person, but they're two.
No,
aren't
the
they?
name of the band was Right Said Fred. It's not somebody called Fred. It's
Right Said Fred.
You wouldn't
Let's
say
have
a signed
another one.
photo of the Beatles and go, what, the Mr. the Beatles?
That's true, actually. Yeah, sorry.
My God.
Okay, carry on.
I don't know why I do this anymore, to be honest.
I don't.
And
A
I would say
habit?
you're too sexy for this podcast as well.
He's definitely ill.
That's
The level of his jokes has gone downhill.
Not
Anyway,
I
very
liked
well.
that.
thanks for ruining that,
Oh,
Sam.
God.
Sorry.
So this podcast is a tragedy in three parts. We choose a theme. Last week we talked about ADHD and loneliness. I wish I was lonely now or isolated.
Jesus,
and this
stop.
week we're focusing on an issue that lots of people have asked us about in a number of different guises, and that's jobs or employment. So thanks to Ian in particular and others who I've obviously completely forgotten who suggested this topic or a topic vaguely related to it. As usual, the three parts include monotonous and dull evidence-based psychoeducation about ADHD and the workspace delivered by the monotonous, barely human collection of round-faced me, Alex the Psychoeducation Monkey. Our personal reflections on ADHD and the workplace. And then the third and final bit is where Sam is going to spunk trumpets all over the place. And Alex and I will try and give you some useless top tips. So,
oh, yeah, I'll
Alex,
actually have tips for this one.
You will.
Oh,
so,
shit.
Alex.
Sorry, carry on.
Third time. So, Alex, you have a job of sorts. No one really understands why. Tell us about ADHD and occupations, you big dog cock.
Well, James, I do have a job, unlike you, because you stopped working as soon as you bought a blue tick off Elon Musk. So, ADHD in the workplace. In general, but not for all, because it's ADHD, nothing's for all. ADHD is associated, on average, with work-related problems, including increased risk of unemployment, underemployment, poor job performance, lower occupational status, less job stability, fewer for you, James, and less job satisfaction. All of those things.
Yeah, I've just started playing music in my ears. Apologies. I was about to say that sounds like you could also call that Mrs. ADHD's CV, couldn't you?
Oh,
could you?
Well,
I didn't listen to it.
He wasn't listening.
Oh,
I wasn't. I was checking my emails.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that sounds like my CV.
If we just focus on the core symptoms of ADHD, see, I used tonal voice to stop you both talking. Not very well. This shouldn't be surprising. So there's never been a company which has written a job advert that says, help wanted, we're looking for somebody that may turn up late, lose their office keys, try not to focus in meetings, and if you fail to complete tasks, you're the employee for us. So the things that many people take for granted, and the things that employers value or think they value, we often can't do as well or consistently, especially if our jobs or the tasks within the jobs are fundamentally unrewarding. On top of that, all the common coexisting issues we can have. So anxiety, mood issues, oppositional behavior, no, we don't, and even physical coexisting conditions like migraine, musculoskeletal problems, weaker immune systems. So that can complicate being an effective worker in many sectors. Even if it doesn't, people see illness as not being effective. One study suggested that ADHD was associated with a 4 to 5% reduction in work performance, and more than double the increase in sick days, James, and double the risk of workplace. See, that's ableist language from me, internalized stigma, and twice the risk of workplace accidents.
I would say I resent that comment, but I actually resemble that comment, Alex. Thanks for the polite laugh, Sam. Love of my life.
I thought you'd fallen off a chair. Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Interestingly, for me, People with ADHD who are diagnosed and medicated as children seem to do better professionally than late diagnosed adults.
That's interesting.
It is, but could be a contender for No Shit Sherlock Award 2022. And if you think about it, because they're treated, aren't they, and managed. So that literally, James, suggests that diagnosing and treating people with ADHD as children, as you've written here, will allow them to have more. Again, falling off a chair. Allow them to have more successful careers. A shocker. Again, ableist, because James genuinely struggles with spelling when he's not paying attention because of ADHD, and I take the piss. Not appropriate. A recent WHO study, World Health Organization, not Doxa, reported that in just 10 countries, ADHD accounted for 143 million lost days of work every year, and almost half of those were James.
I mean, it's fair. It's fair. It's harsh, but fair. So obviously, all that. I mean, ridiculously boringly delivered information is kind of when you have a job. But what about when you're looking for a job and trying to get a job?
I'm really glad you asked, James. It's written down here. I'm really glad you asked that. You wrote after your own question. Fuck you know. Adults with ADHD can have impairments in all aspects of employment. Think about the things we can't do. Think about us looking for a job. I want a job. Think about having to go into an interview and not having an emotional reaction. So job search, applications, being disorganized, procrastinating, RSD about being rejected, self-esteem problems, paying attention to adverts, missing key bits like you need a PhD, James. You made that up. Or why are you applying this, Sam? We've sacked you, and this is an interview for your replacement. It's like that. The job interview, failure to remember key details when asked, and not because we don't have them, but like I don't know, lack of flexible thinking, inability to pay attention to questions, inability to pay attention to other things. Disclosure. Sorry, that's a dad joke. Disclosure of ADHD itself. RSD again. Imagine that in an interview. Anxiety generally, and I find this embarrassing because I resemble it so bad. Overstating our abilities is commonly reported. Oh, I could probably do that, Sam. The working. I meant that you do that.
It's true. I do that.
And then I know this is no, go on. I talk too much.
I used to do that thing all the time where I'd apply for so many jobs every day that I'd get an interview and think I can't find what this interview was for. So I'd have to go along and I'd apply for so many varied things. And I'd have to go along and pretend.
Welcome to not personal reflection.
Yeah. You know the first section of this isn't personal reflections. And just to remind you of the hand system, Sam, because we can see each other. If you want to interrupt Alex,
I can't
which
see
I know it's hard.
though. Oh, I don't need to, do I? I just need to see you.
Amazing.
Why can't you see you?
I block myself out.
That, James, if she's got a hand up, she doesn't need to.
I know. Sorry, I didn't think of that. Anyway, please, Alex, I'm actually enjoying this bit for once, so carry on.
Even if we get the job.
Is that because you wrote it?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Sorry.
It is, though.
It is, yeah, it is. Clearly, it is.
Sorry, I'll carry on.
We can be highly motivated. It's not true that we can't. But the core and associated symptoms of ADHD mean it's very quickly possible that some jobs are difficult for us to engage with. If you're really lucky and you have a job that you find rewarding, this might be less of a problem for you. If, like James, James put in the script, you're a worm on the monkey gates at the Safari Park. That was his job when he dressed up as a worm.
That was a different job when I dressed up as a worm, actually.
And it wasn't job so much as LARPing.
Yeah.
So James worked on the Monkey Jungle Gate at Safari Park not as a worm. And he had to just sit there waiting for monkeys to run at him. It's unlikely you're going to be able to make a strong ADHD career out of that.
I'd like to add I was also Mr. Whippy as well, which it was a much more fun and engaging job. Don't forget that.
That's true, yeah. Mr. Whippy was in that S&M dungeon, though, wasn't it? Nothing to do with ice cream. Here's the kicker. This doesn't just affect us. It affects our employers too. So with the right support, we can be happy, we can be productive in many, many, many jobs. But without that support, we'll soon move on, even if we're talented at it, very talented. So the employer has to go through the whole process of rehiring Sam again. The consensus appears to be that there are clear weaknesses in the UK, but in every system really, to support adults with ADHD in the workplace. And this costs us because if they did support us, we'd be as effective and talented and creative as anybody else. And if they did support us, no. I mean, as we would have been without ADHD symptoms. And it would massively help and reduce money and time for even the blooming people who employ us. I'm done.
Good. Thank God for that. I need a break as always. So we're back in part 2 for some personal reflections, including the ones Sam's already done in part 1. See you in a bit.
Bye.
Alex, hi.
Aight. What's up? Hello, Governor.
Oh.
Welcome back to episode 2 of the ADHD Adults podcast.
Episode 2. I actually said episode 6 the other day, well, for last Monday's, but it's definitely not episode 2, Alex, unless you've gone into some weird time machine, which I'm sure you'd like to event to go back and be there at Henry VIII's coronation.
Oh God, I wouldn't know, would you? I'd get into around the London City Wall gates at the time of the coronation.
Look at his face. He's so excited by that thought.
I think we all would. Love to go and see what colour Father Christmas was, for example, at that time. Probably green, not red.
Was he there?
His skin colour, Alex.
No, that's
said
a
what
myth,
colour.
It's not.
You just said.
Yeah. Santa Claus.
Sorry, James. Go ahead.
No. The joke's dead now. You've trodden on it. Alex just said what colour Father Christmas was, as opposed to it sounds like his skin colour, not the clothes that he wore. But anyway, fucking hell.
Welcome back to episode 64. I'm not very well. Welcome back to episode 64 of the ADHD Adults podcast, part 2. That's what I meant. Where we are today talking about occupations and ADHD, because we're always asked to a lot. As always, in part 2, we're going to talk about our personal reflections of jobs, ADHD, workplace issues, and so on. Unadvisedly, I'm start with Mrs. ADHD. Sam, what are your experiences of ADHD and jobs?
I've had lots of them. So lots of experience, really. Never stayed in a job for longer than a year before this one. And actually, this one I've been in for a long time. Yeah. And
Solid maths.
yeah, because I'd either get bored or imposter syndrome. I'd just think, well, they're going to find out any minute now how shit I am. I'd over promise what I could do in the interview, and then obviously would be terrified that I've told them I could do all these things and I hadn't got a clue.
Not as terrified as your passengers.
Oh yeah, I had to actually lie about my height and get a doctor's note for that one to say that I was tall enough to work on an aircraft. Anyway, that's a whole other story. So I'd flip from job to job to job, and there'd be periods where, I don't know, impulsively I'd just go to a festival when I hadn't been given the time off for the festival, and then I couldn't go back to the job because they knew I'd been to the festival. So then I'd have no job. So then I'd have to be applying for loads of jobs, and then I'd forget what jobs I'd applied for, and I'd go along to the interview and I didn't know what job I'd applied for, and they'd ask me why I wanted the job and what experience I had. I didn't know because I'd got so many versions of my CV and I didn't. Anyway, anything else? I don't know.
Yeah. So when you were doing the job, like day to day, not this one, because inexplicably you're quite good at it. What was going on? Like, you get there in the morning. How was it?
It depends which job. I've had loads. Usually I was terrified all the time. Sorry.
I was about to say, can I add something that Sam, which we'll talk about this in top tips, she has a very good approach for finding a job when she's out of work. She's almost never been out of work, but she doesn't often pick the best jobs. So she once took a job, and she can explain this story better. working for a company that probably wasn't a real company, the one that did a midnight
Oh
flit,
my
Sam.
god! Oh my god! I forgot about that.
What did they
Yeah,
do or
should I
not
tell that
do?
now or
Yeah,
or
just
not?
briefly. Yeah, briefly.
Yeah. So when I worked for Virgin, started working for Virgin when I was 19. I was just too anxious all the time, so I decided to give it up and got offered this. How I didn't see this, I don't know. I went for an interview in a hotel, like I was going to say lobby, but reception area. So they didn't even have a premises, and they were saying, well, you know, we haven't got the premises yet, but we're going to have this big office, and there's going to be loads of people there, and you'll have a new computer, and blah blah blah. And I was like, this is amazing! What an amazing job! I'm definitely going to give up my job at Virgin for this. Turns out they were just two lads having a laugh. They'd like take me round to their mate's house to smoke weed and stuff, and I didn't have there was an office that they'd got, but there was no computer in it and no other people. And I kept saying, what am I going to do? And then I just turned up one morning, and the manager of the office block, I went to him and said, I can't get into our office. And he went, oh darling, they've done a midnight flit. I was like, what does that mean? And he said, well, they didn't want to pay the rent, so they just haven't turned up, and they've just gone. And I was like, well, I've never been paid any wages from them. And
let's save that for Thursday's episode.
Okay.
Because this bit is heartbreaking, but this story carries on. So please tune in on Thursday for this is a ridiculous story.
Are you self-employed as well, Sam?
What?
Weren't you
she owned a salon?
as well?
She was a franchisee.
I've had a couple of salons.
Is that ADHD friendly to have to do all your own sort of accounts?
So no, we had an accountant actually, so that was fine. But
you worked out of an office ADHD, that was a hotel.
Yeah.
What wasn't
just
ADHD
a monkey with an abacus, was it?
Was that I felt trapped. So I liked the fact that when I got bored or overwhelmed or whatever, I could just leave the job and move on, or completely move areas or whatever. When I had my own business, I felt like, oh my God, I'm responsible for people, and I've got to fucking carry on doing the same thing, and I don't want to. So that was the difficulty.
I think that's really common. That's the kind of the point I'm making. I'm self-employed now, but it's very much a portfolio career. James, and really, you've got such an interesting job history. There's very little interesting about you. So
that's both of those. Neither of those things are true, actually, Al. So I'm very lucky in that my career, if you like, has been pretty stable. I started off as a nurse when I was 18 because I wasn't clever enough to be a doctor, and I was a shit nurse working at a hospital where lots of people died, which isn't funny, but I'm just making the point that it wasn't because of me, because I was so scared to actually speak to people. The neurodevelopmental delay we often have with ADHD is by about 2 or 3 years. So when I was 18 and I started nursing, I was, if you like, mentally about 15 or 16 years old. And my very first job on the ward, I was told, right, go down to Bay 3 and give a woman a bed bath. Now, we'd done bed baths in college, but learning how to do a bed bath is very different to finding you've got a woman with late stage dementia who doesn't communicate in any way, and having to wash this woman. It took me 2.5 hours because I didn't know what should I do, what shouldn't I do. And that, it's just a metaphor for the rest of my nursing career. I was terrible. I was so scared to have to go and speak to people. I just didn't have I wasn't a full adult yet. I was like a child. And luckily I broke my spine, ironically, while I was working at the orthopedic hospital at Oswestry. Yeah, and that allowed me to get out of that fucking game. And because my college that I was doing nursing at was affiliated with Wolverhampton University, I phoned them up. There was a week before the university year started. And that they had a very robust admissions system, because I phoned up and said, can I do a degree? And they said, yeah, turn up Monday. So I turned up Monday, and then that was kind of the start of my career. So the career has kind of been pretty stable since then. But when you do a PhD, it's not very well paid, particularly back then. In 1999, it was £5,000 a year bursary, to cover your living expenses and everything. So I had to have part-time jobs. And I went through a lot of them. And the one that I left quickest was after a day, was in a pub because I didn't like the customers. The second quickest one that I left was after a month, and they fucking loved me at this job. I was described when they hired me. They said in the interview, you were effervescent, you were amazing. I know, Alex, you're going to say something. But I left after a month because The manager praised. We used to close up. It was a Yates's wine lodge. We used to close up on a Saturday night, and I used to wheel the big tables away and put them away. And I missed one Saturday night because I was ill, again off sick. And the next team meeting, the manager thanked the person for putting the tables away well, and he hadn't ever thanked me for it. So I left the job because of that, Al.
That does sound like you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, you think about the WhatsApp message at Aston. So I did leave that job, and he phoned me up desperately saying, please come back. And I pretended I had a virus, an unnamed virus, and that I was going to be not able to work for months, because he said, I'd like to thank Alan for, he really put the tables away really quickly and efficiently. And I thought, I've done that every Saturday night this month, you cunt. And
we
didn't
do
say
quickly
anything.
or efficiently.
Well, I fucking did.
Really?
Considering I had a broken spine, wheeling big heavy tables.
Still wasn't efficient and quick.
Obviously not. Thank you for reinforcing that horrible rejection issue I had in my life. Thank you. Alexa, turn Sam off. Oh, it's made no difference. Fuck it. It turns the light off. I thought that would help. Shit.
No, it makes no difference. I don't think so. Alexa, turn Sam on.
No difference. Anyway, looking at my actual career, I've been off sick all the time. Luckily, as an academic, you can kind of get away with it and just say I'm working from home today. Now I'm in a real job outside of that sector. I have to log sick days, and luckily I've not been too bad. But in the first 3 months, it was 4 sick days, and often this causes me massive mental health issues. If I'm off sick, I feel guilty. That affects my mental health, makes me very low in mood, and therefore that often drives me being off sick more. So when you talked about time off, and we joked about me, it's very fucking accurate, to be honest. From the employer's side of things, I think it's really interesting. When I first declared my ADHD, it's clear that the HR department at the university I worked at had no fucking clue what neurodiversity was, because I was when I declared it, first of all, they said, here's a leaflet that might help you. And I think I've said it before. In it said, ADHD, your employees will be able to work long hours. They will be able to hyper-focus on their work and will be very productive. They will be creative. They will be happy. They will be loyal. And just loads of stuff with no fucking evidence base whatsoever. The process of occupational health in the workplace to support me was woeful. The first assessor didn't know anything about ADHD. The second one recommended some stuff, but the university didn't want it. And it only really kicked off when I did an access to work application, and then stuff happened. But I left because of that whole process. No one understood who I was and what I needed when I was diagnosed. And just quickly, the interview thing is really important. So big shout out to Chloe. I was helping her recently. There's lots of things with an interview that can go wrong. You talked about them, but just some actually, no, I'm going to give these as top tips in the last section. I'm going to keep my powder dry. I know. Alex, tell us about your big jobs.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, again, I've had loads as well. One night shift at Alton Towers as a driver. Awful.
Oh, my mum worked at Alton Towers.
No, the problem was what you said, that I was a child in not even a very good man's body, to be honest. And everything that I tried to do, I didn't understand how everybody could do. Yeah, in a psychopath's body. I couldn't do anything like other people. The only thing that used to get me through was like, you was over enthusiasm at the start, and then I just absolutely lose interest and walk away. I did do a PhD, but it was just not right for me at all, and I couldn't afford it like you. So I fraudulently bought a house, which is what? I know, yeah. Well,
you could buy them back then. They were like 12p, weren't they?
They were, yeah, guineas. I borrowed money from one person and told a bank that, one bank organization, and told the bank that I was rich, and it was my savings, and would they lend me the rest? It was a deposit. So I had 100% mortgage fraudulently, filled it full of other PhD students, and that's how I paid for my PhD. Didn't miss a mortgage payment, to be fair.
So that is, I mean, we do. It is said that people with ADHD are more entrepreneurial, and that is an entrepreneurial and psychopathic spirit there, Al.
25% of all prisoners. Impressive.
Yeah, exactly.
Like criminal. I'm not mentioning.
Oh,
any of
that's
the people
criminal.
involved.
What's
Yes,
the
it's
statute?
fraud, yeah.
What's the statute of limitations on fraud, Al? Because I'm going to get in touch with that bank and ask them.
I live in the EU, mate. And then even after it wasn't. None of it was right. None of it was right. I was doing jobs pretending to be the professor next door when I was never going to be, never wanted to be, because all professors, James, are knobheads.
Very true.
Aren't you one now?
No.
Okay,
I
that didn't work then.
No.
No, it will work though, because actually that's a lead in for an embarrassing situation. So I'm not going to share it now.
All right.
Doing my job for years, I was just crap at it, but just about squeaked by, because I was lucky, but it was awful until really I decided to base my tasks on my strengths and not the strengths that were bad for me, the ones that were good for me. And then about 10 years ago, I just went into the interview and said, and if you want someone really organized who'll dot the I's and cross the T's, hire someone else. But if you want someone that can teach and inspire people, but might, be late with stuff, great, I'm your man. And they went, yeah, we'll have that. And they were great. and my career I've never said yes to things since that I knew I was going to be bad at, because that's failure for me.
I think we can also talk about that in top tips. I believe we've got time for the best game ever. Is that right? I believe we have.
Balls.
Now, as usual, Sam, you may know the answer. Have you frozen, or is your face just
Well, I lost you for ages, but I'm back now.
Okay. As usual, Sam, you may know the answer to these, so please don't give anything away because you are on camera.
Got it.
Okay. So, Alex, you've got two options as usual: sleep or Oculus headsets.
Ooh.
I'll have Oculus, please.
Ooh.
Okay. So, Mrs. ADHD and I bought an Oculus headset and didn't use it. So obviously the best thing to do is to buy another one. So we own two Oculus headsets. And recently we decided on a Sunday afternoon, when we may not have been sober, that it would be a really good idea to have a go on the Oculus headsets. And we failed to do so. So there's three reasons for why we failed to use these Oculus headsets. Option one is
nobody knows what an Oculus headset is. Is that one?
It's a VR headset.
Knows.
A VR headset, a virtual reality headset. You put it on and you're in virtual reality. Alex, I know it's more modern than 1970, so it's difficult for you. So why didn't we play with the Oculus headsets? Option one, we couldn't find either of them. Option two, we hadn't updated the software on them and couldn't remember our Facebook passwords, so we spent 2 hours trying to get them to work before giving up.
Okay.
Or option three, we'd moved the furniture and I immediately tripped over, so we had to stop playing.
I like this one. I think that... What was the first one? I should have written it down.
Couldn't find either of them.
Oh, yeah.
Lost to Oculus headsets. I don't think it's the first one, because I imagine they're as big as a house and you can't lose them. I don't think it's the second one, Facebook passwords, because it's not 2007. Nobody uses Facebook anymore. It's metaverse now, and that's why that man's lost all of his money. So I think your crappy dyspraxic spine tripped over and you couldn't do it. That's what I think.
You're wrong. It was option two. So
it's
because
owned by Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to log into Oculus with Facebook, and because nobody knows their Facebook.
Don't go on Facebook.
It's on your phone. It's on your computer. So if you ever do use it, you just click on it and it logs in. So we couldn't log in. You had to update the software because we hadn't used it for a year, but you had to log in to update the software. And to do that, you had to do it through the Oculus and your phone. And we just couldn't. So we spent 2 hours hyper-focusing, not talking to each other, on trying to get these, when we weren't sober as well, on trying to get these headsets to work. And then just gave up, both had headaches because you're staring into a screen and said,
if you don't use Facebook, how do you log in and find out the racist mumblings of your uncle? Which is all it's for, I'm pretty sure.
Just speak to him, really.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, on that brilliant note, it's another failure for
going.
Alex, which has made my day. We will be back in part 3 for Sam's spunk trumpeting. See you in a bit. Spunk trumpet.
On.
Welcome back. Welcome back to part 3 of episode 64 of the ADHD Adults podcast, where we're talking about ADHD in the workplace and jobs. The final part is top tips. Mine are always rubbish. Sam's got some that might be useful, but let's see what Alex has got.
Okay, right. It's a boring one, really, but it is useful. This is the top tip, and we're in my professional area now. If you're doing a job that you feel is somebody else's, I don't mean literally, I mean emotionally. Like, this isn't the real me doing this job because it's not my interest, not my values. It's going to be very, very difficult to succeed in that, especially if you've got ADHD. So employers only want one thing, really, and that's money. They want to win. And they have talk about all the things they've got to do. Whether they make books or they sell university courses or whatever it is, they want to succeed. They want more students, more book sales, more clients, whatever it is. You have to figure out how your values can align with what your employer actually wants, not with what they say they want. The only way to do that is to think, what can I do, really? What am I good at? What are my strengths? And the way to do that is to think about times you've been successful. It doesn't need to be in this job. It could be in any aspect of your life. When have I been successful? What happened? What happened? What did I do? And transfer elements of that to your job. Because if you don't do that, you're absolutely fucked. You can't succeed without working like that. Well, no, that's not true. You can succeed, but it'll be a massive cost to your mental and physical health.
What if you've never been successful at anything?
Yeah, that it's a really common question, and it isn't the case for anyone. But people with ADHD often
Have
think
you
that
met
that's
me?
true. Yeah, it's usually not the case. And no, it isn't the case, but we have to look at how we define success. And it could be a day where you felt good at the end of work because someone said it was good rather than you feeling it was good. And then look, okay, yeah, that was an enjoyable day.
Yes.
I'd start with a task you've ever done that not was skiving but felt like skiving. If you don't know English vernacular, that means like getting away with it. So for me, teaching always felt like, well, that's cheating. I'm just standing there while other people learn some stuff. And with other people, that's a nightmare job. Yeah, or don't. Yeah, not my problem. Non-directive. And so what felt like skiving? Why did it? What was it? Was it because you were in a big group? Was it because you were allowed to concentrate on your own? What was it? Everybody's different. And so that's the key, really, is to think about the process. Not easy. Get yourself a coach or similar, or just a friend who will ask you these questions. That's my top tip. So it was a bit long. Absolute spunk trumpet.
Mine will be longer. Ding.
Go on then. Yeah. Hey. Well done. Go on then, Sam.
Yeah. So most of my top tips are for kind of finding a job, because that's what I've always been good at, because I've had loads of jobs. So for me, gamifying it worked. So I would have a target of applications that I had to do a day. So I'd always have like 10 applications per day. And if your CV is long, like mine was, I wasn't staying in jobs for very long. So my CV was really long. I looked really flighty. Anybody looking at my actual CV would never employ me. So I had like 5 different versions of my CV, and I'd pick out jobs that kind of were clustered together. So anything kind of customer focused, put them together, or anything admin focused, whatever. I'd put it all together, and it's a ball ache to sort out at first, but once it's sorted out, then you can just fly them out when you see jobs that suit you. Get a recruitment consultant that believes in you, actually, because if you sell yourself to them, then they sell you to everybody else. And I had a really good one that even when I just walked out of jobs because I couldn't be asked or whatever, I'd just go back to her and she'd just get me another job. It was brilliant. If you know that you're flighty, like I was, go for temporary jobs. Go for a 3-month contract, and then just make sure that you find something else before that contract ends. don't be afraid to ask for a trial day if you're not sure about the job. I once, because I was applying for so many jobs at the same time, I'd already got one job and then I applied for some others and got 2 other jobs. I accepted the one job and then got another job and then said to both of them, listen, I've got 2 jobs. I don't know which one to go for. I know I've already accepted you, but
no, carry on. When the hand goes up, it's when you next pause. I'll say something,
right.
Sam. It's not stop mid-sentence.
Yeah, so I was honest
You
with
at the
them and
back.
said, I can't choose. So I had a trial day at both and then got back to them and told them which one I'd chosen, basically.
That is so ballsy. I've never heard anyone else for what wasn't kind of a CEO or managing director position go in and say, I've applied somewhere else. I'm going to do one day at both, and whoever
I know I've
impresses me most.
accepted the job with you,
But they both went, okay.
It's more interesting. Well, they both wanted me, and the thing was, I was already in a job, so I had nothing to lose really, and they're just jobs to me. It was just meaningless. So yeah, just do that. If they really want you, then they'll let you. But actually, so in the job that I'm in now, which I've stayed in for an amount of time, I don't know how long, but it's long. The reason I can stay in this job is because I've got lots of different elements that keep me interested, so I can flip from task to task to task to task to task. So try and find a job that either has got lots of bits in it that you can flip between, or in a large organization where you can move to different jobs within different departments, but you're still working under the same organization, so it doesn't look that shit on your CV. And also, if you apply for so many jobs that you lose track of which one they are, try and keep track, because going to an interview when you don't know which job you've gone for is a fucking nightmare. Also, another thing I do, actually, I don't know if this is the right one for this, but my to-do list is mental. I'm looking at it now and I've got loads of different tasks for all the different people I've got to do. But what I also do is I put side quests on there so that I can break up jobs with side quests. Because if I'm playing a game, I'm always after the side quest. I don't go for the main quest. So I'll reward myself with a side quest if I've done one of the main quests tasks. That's probably it for me from now.
What's happening?
So a side quest, they're the really interesting ones. They're like really enjoyable, like, I don't know, in a game like picking flowers or making potions or something.
Sorry, I didn't say what's that mean. I said what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I just like the judicious use of the word also about 6 times
Really?
to add something else. Yeah.
Furthermore.
Yeah.
James, you got anything?
Well, just in the
Marrying well?
interest of time, because marrying well is a very good tip. I'm just going to talk about interviews. So again, I mentioned a good friend, Chloe. Recently, we were talking about interviews. There's lots of stuff that we obviously will struggle with in an interview. So some top tips. Write all of your strengths down. Write down why you will be a good employee. Write down why they need to employ you and have it in front of you on a piece of paper. Because when they ask you that question, when they say, why should we employ you? If you haven't, there's a good chance you're going to go, doesn't know I'm hardworking or something. But you need to write down that you're loyal, you're hardworking, that you're creative, that you can work as part of a team as well. Well done, Sam. Brilliant. Work as part of a team as well as being alone. Have all that written down. And take a pad and paper in with you, because there will be times when they'll ask you stuff and you might need to write it down. Equally, it's okay to say, can you repeat the question? Sorry, I just want to be clear in what you're asking, if you didn't listen and you weren't paying attention. And the last thing I'd say is prepare a question, because most interviewers will say, have you got any questions for us? And I know from interviewing lots of people that when someone just goes, no, I think you haven't looked at the job or the employer, have you? Because everyone has a question. Yes, Al.
I know someone who had it was an interview for a school, because it was like in the old days, and he was only like 13, and they did the interview with him, and then they said, have you got any questions for us? And he said, yes. What is the epididymis?
Amazing.
I think that all the time whenever I hear interview questions.
That is good. Right, on that note, we'll give a quick product recommendation of the week, because it's something that can help you in the workplace. I've dropped my rings, and that's project management software. They can be they can be a real shit to get used to, but whether you use Trello or Asana or not Microsoft Project because it's shit, if you've got a job that's got multiple projects, you can keep track of everything that you're doing on them, and therefore it helps you work out if you're hitting your deadlines, where you're falling behind. It can really help you try and avoid that fear of failure. That was episode 65 of the ADHD Adults podcast, where we talked about ADHD in the workplace.
65, was it?
Wasn't, no.
64.
It says 64.
It was. I made a mistake in the script. Thanks for pointing it out.
That's all right.
That was
Episode
episode. We
two.
always get the number. It's not episode 2, yeah. So that was episode 64-ish of the ADHD Adults podcast. If you enjoyed any of this utter shite, why not support the show on the link? We now have a Just Giving site as well as PayPal. Otherwise, Alex is going to have to continue making World Cup trophy molds out of his big old round head. If you want to get in touch, we haven't contact us on the socials or through Discord. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi all.
Trigger warning klaxon, 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 big klaxon. Trigger warning klaxon, 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 klaxon.